Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro for anyone who's out there. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Threads, even TikTok, not on Twitter or X. I can't figure that out to save my life to fix my account. But you can find this podcast on Instagram. That's how we communicate. You can DM through there. You can also find Gorilla Brave Guys on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, as well as www.gorillabrave.love. So that'll give you all the information. Transcripts, guys, from every episode. Again, as a reminder, you can either go to Podbean or Apple Podcasts. It will give you a transcript of every episode by 5-second clusters, I think is how it works. 10-second clusters, so it's very detailed. You can find any of the notes, time-stamped things, relevant things you want to be educated on, a reminder of things you want to go back and reflect on, or here again, it's all in there so you can find where it was time-stamped, or you can read through it, which I found a lot of people do. Or what I've heard some people do is they take the transcripts, they copy them, and they put them in their AI and have their AI give them a summary after they've listened to it of however many pages they want to read. So that's kind of interesting. I never thought about that. But anyway, it's out there for you guys to do whatever you want with. That being said, I have a very special guest from Connecticut, Maria Carlucci from BamuBamu Fire Club. I think I got it right. Well, hopefully. But how are you doing today, Maria?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. It is a nice day here in Colorado, and I'm looking forward to spring, summer, all of the above. So let's talk about you, Maria. Let's talk about your story a little bit leading up to this venture. Were you a foodie as a kid? Let's talk about little Maria and her growth into being a business owner.
Well, it's actually a funny story. So I've always been crazily obsessed with spicy food for as long as I can remember. Even like in college, having a bunch of roommates, like their biggest complaint about me was that the hot sauce was taking up too much space in the fridge because I just had such a large collection. I actually went to College of Charleston, and that was like the first time I saw like a pepper palace, which is like a huge chain now. And I was like obsessed with that store, always going in there. And yeah, even when I was little, I was just a little like spice freak. So kind of all led to a business after COVID, because obviously COVID changed everything for everyone. And after I graduated college, I moved to China actually. And I was living in Shanghai for 5 years. And that's when I really discovered a whole new kind of spice, especially with like anything from like Chengdu or Sichuan. You have like peppercorns and the numbing pepper, which I thought was so cool. So when I came back, basically around when I started the business.
Yeah, let's talk about, I'm like, my mind's processing all that
I know I
you
just
just
said a
said.
lot, sorry.
Yeah, no, and it was sort of matter of fact. So now this is where my job kicks in, right? The Let's start as a kid. Let's talk about where you grew up, the ability to find spiciness, because you talk about College of Charleston in the South. Did you grow up in Connecticut? Did you grow up in the Northeast? Was the
Yep,
palate
I
you
did.
grew up with flatter, should I say, less diverse?
I grew up in Connecticut my whole life, but my mom is actually from Istanbul, Turkey, and my dad is Italian. So he's like third generation Italian though. But I would say growing up, both sides of the family, the Italian side and the Turkish side, had a very eclectic, I guess, array of foods I was eating that were still spicy, definitely.
Okay, let's talk about. I don't even the Turkish thing. I love Turkish food. I've actually spent a lot of time in Istanbul 3 times in my life. over the years. Amazing, amazing place, amazing food, guys. Turkish food it's an up and coming thing. You have a country that's 96 million people plus, probably larger than that now. That's going to have huge influence, and it is a roadway to both the East and the West in terms of Asia and Europe, Middle East. So I do like this. Talk to me about growing up in this type of environment, because obviously both families, both cultures are heavily rooted in food. A lot of love in food, a lot of expanding the palate through food, breaking bread.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, like, unfortunately, all my grandparents have passed away now, but growing up, going to my grandparents' house and eating what they were cooking was one of our favorite things to do, and how we would spend our weekends when we weren't in school. And like my grandma, my dad's mom, her, like all of her recipes were like, infamous in our family, especially the way she would saute long hots, and literally couldn't eat anything at the dinner table without the sauteed long hots. Like it was a must. And I guess on the Turkish side, I mean, was growing up eating things that, most of my friends have never heard of, like bamia, for example. It's a kind of okra dish, and a lot of other things. But my grandma would always, sprinkle like baharat, which is a kind of Turkish seasoning, which is definitely has some spice, but not crazy spicy. But I would say like a very seasoned dish was like, common.
I like this a lot. So you have this exposure, you like spicy food. Do you remember the experience where it truly was like, this is something I really love? It's more than just a passion. It's more than just something that I'm doing, because you gravitated to Pepper Palace in College of Charleston, I believe you said. I'm assuming South Carolina, but
Yeah.
I'm not positive. And then we're talking about, okay, I'm just going to hop, jump, and leave to Shanghai, China, which I'm going to get into a whole other topic conversation of that. I've done production there. I've been there in China. Spent some time in Hong Kong as well during graduate school. I would say semi-living there. And so let's talk about the hot sauce thing, the anything hot. Does it go outside of hot sauces? What foods does that entail? Because there's a lot of diversity now in the palate that's beyond just Italian and Turkish. That's why I wanted to anchor it, because there's a whole world out there. Obviously, the leap to China is one of them. But let's talk about this hot sauce, what I would call at the time an infatuation, which maybe even some people are probably thinking it's unhealthy how much hot sauce you have in the refrigerator, your college roommates.
Yeah, wait, so what's the question?
When did you when did you discover your love? Like, truly, was it cemented? Was it cemented that this is something not only that I'm doing, but I'm going to do? Do you remember the moment? Do you remember sort of what I'll call the flux capacitor moment, the head on the toilet moment?
Yeah, I kind of do. I think I'm fortunate enough to have been able to travel a lot, like a lot of places. And I would say what really spearheaded it was when I did my study abroad program. I chose to do semester at sea. You basically live on this giant converted cruise ship, and you pick whether you're going to do the Atlantic, like, sailing, or the Pacific sailing. And the funny thing is that even though my concentration was in Chinese, and I probably should have done the Pacific, I guess, like, version of the study abroad, because that was like the whole Asia part, I ended up doing the Atlantic one. And basically, they they give you an assignment when you're supposed to consistently look out for one thing at every port. That was like, and you would keep a journal on it. And I think what my thing was, I know that I was like going to any like specialty grocery store, or any grocery store really, and going to the pepper aisle and basically collecting more like powdered versions of spice, because I don't know, I just wasn't doing hot sauce. And I got to go to some really like unique places like in like Ghana and South Africa. So that was, yeah.
Yeah, Mozambique, that area, the Portuguese influence on spice. One of the reasons Portuguese love spice so much, as we discussed in another episode, guys, is that influence in Africa does have a lot of spice in it. Was some of it brought over from South America? Yes. But is some of it native to Africa? Yes. And is some of it native to Asia? Yes. All of those things are true. So I like this little bit of a journey that goes on there. Talk to me about this influence and impact on you as you're seeing this, as you see this is not maybe just something that's local or something that's just in the U.S. This is actually an international thing, your experience right in front of your eyes on this trip. What does that mean to you? What do you feel from it?
I feel so like triggered in a way that makes me excited, not only to try it, but also to learn. And I know it's a funny thing to like be so interested in peppers, but like to me, what's a really obvious like pepper varietal, a lot of people are like, how do you even know that? And I'm like, I actually know a lot about peppers, and I didn't even realize that I knew so much about peppers until like people were questioning, like, how do you even know that that's the name of that pepper, or that's how hot it's going to be? And I was like, I just know.
I mean, was it a curiosity thing? Is this self-taught? I've got to imagine it is. I think we need to anchor it a little bit because you're educating yourself in Chinese, which more or less doesn't have a lot to do with hot sauce. But I think that learning to be educated and learning to educate others is an important skill here that we're talking about. But I think from this point is you're also absorbing this information in a very free way, in a very channeled way. That's almost not in an effort to do so. What I would say, it's coming naturally. Talk to me about this. Talk to me about this journey, because you do have a lot of knowledge. Where did it come from? It's not like there's the school of hard knock spices or hard knock hot sauce, right? So talk to
Right.
me about this.
Well, I guess it was just self-taught then in that case, and just looking up what I was buying and what I was seeing, and doing some research on it, and keeping my log about that throughout that 4-month period. Yeah, educating myself in Chinese was just something I was interested in, but my purpose in China wasn't really had anything to do with my business. I actually just moved there to teach English. So in a way, I was an educator for years.
I like this a lot, because part of being a food entrepreneur, guys, is the process of educating people on food, particularly when we're blazing trails. Even if we're not a chef, there's a lot of things within our brand that have to be, that are important, that are layering in our brand for the audience as you're building your businesses, as you're trying to be entrepreneurs or be more successful in your entrepreneurial journey. I think it's worth noting the obsession, guys. Obsessions aren't there by accident. And what I mean by obsession is it's something we take a lot of interest in, and it doesn't take a lot of effort to have the interest. Does it take effort to build something from that interest? Yes, of course. That's where the day in, the consistency, the steadfastness comes into place. However, with the example I'm going to give here that did it was, what a crazy insight or gift to be able to journal that at that age across those nations at that time. For you, what a gift in life. It's a huge anchoring moment for you as an entrepreneur. And I think for the entrepreneur listening in the audience, one of the reasons I try to hone on these things, when is the moment you fell in love with hot sauce? When is the moment that changed it? What is a story that talks about it? If I were coaching or consulting for the individual, we have to anchor those first. It's important in motivational interviewing or coaching consulting that we think about things this way, because we need those anchors as entrepreneurs or the person building businesses, because during the worst days, during the hard days, during the days we don't know if we're going to make it or we're going to have enough money to get on the next day, those are the things that root us in our purpose and why we do it. It's a reminder that we have a skill or an asset that someone else doesn't have that is also useful for the world, that is important. Or maybe other people have it, they don't have it in the way that we do. So that's a big thing, and why I brought up the teacher thing, the education thing, the first training in Chinese, then being a teacher, being taught in order to teach is an important skill set. And if we integrate it into every one of our businesses, too much of us focus on, I want to be taught so I become more valuable. That's not the point. The point is if we filter through this very simple thing as entrepreneurs from day one in our businesses, I am being taught so I can taught someone to do it better than I can. That's it. That is the essence of life, and that's the essence of being an entrepreneur. Grow the human so they can grow your business. At first, are you going to do a lot of the growing? Yeah, because you have to grow in the human that's capable of growing your business. That requires educating yourself, and you're going to have to do it over and over and over and over again. There's no way out of it. 28 years later, I'm still doing it as an adult, and that doesn't include starting my lawnmower business with my parents' help at 7 years old, and learning renting tractors and gas and paying for assets and writing things off, and all the things I was blessed enough to have entrepreneurs as parents teach me. That led into mowing fields, that led into businesses with friends, that led into fruit stands and vegetable stands, organic, and so on and so forth, before organic was a thing in the 90s, honestly. So before the trend ever was a trend. The which is funny because organic was the way things were done before, and we think it's a new thing. Let's talk about, Maria, the trip to China. Okay, so you've done the Atlantic, you're missing the West Coast. So, I mean, part of it is you got to experience what you probably wouldn't have experienced if you were in China, and being able to explore Asia. So let's talk a little bit about the decision to go to Shanghai, the adventure, what you're seeking there. Yeah. The teaching, the education, the hardships. Let's talk about all those things.
Right. I would say, choosing to major in Chinese was difficult for me because I actually couldn't decide what I wanted to major in until I was a junior. So I had to double down on my languages. So basically, my choices were Chinese, Japanese, Hebrew, or Arabic. So I chose to take Arabic and Chinese because Japanese and Chinese, there's a lot of overlapping in the languages. Like sometimes the character will be the same in both languages, but be pronounced differently and have different meanings. So I was like, oh man, I'm gonna really confuse myself and fail both classes, which I didn't want to happen because I was trying to, graduate on time in 4 years, which I managed to do. But anyway, I was putting so much time and effort in making sure that I passed those classes that it felt like I had to use one of the two languages, like in my first years graduating college. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do or how I was going to use either Arabic or Chinese. So that's when I went to the Career Center and I was like, what do people do with my major? Because I don't even know. My major was international studies. And they said most graduates with that degree go abroad, go live abroad, and usually start teaching English. And I said, oh, all right. So I just decided to jump in and go all the way to China. And it was definitely scary at first. I was only 22 and I flew there myself after I landed a job on Skype. And I remember when I landed, I was like, gosh, I hope this teacher that works at the school that I was hired at. I was like, I really hope he's at the airport. Otherwise, I'm like just not gonna have a clue what to do. And luckily he was there. There's a sign with my name on it. And, he took me downtown Shanghai from the airport, which was pretty far. And we took the maglev, which was very exciting because I was like, what is this? Like a giant floating bullet train that hovers because of magnets. It's insane. And I was like, I was definitely like freaking out. I remember that first night when I stayed in the hotel by myself. I did not sleep at all. I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. I actually the airport, I think it is a bullet train, which gives everyone an idea how far away the airport is actually from downtown. But one of the things I would say is that it is a very forward way of thinking on the Chinese part of understanding that their cities and their population is booming and growing. And by the nature of it, eventually the city will get to fully where the airport is over a long period of time. It's very future thinking, and in a lot of ways, a lot of things are being done that way around the world. And just as a side note, because I'm a big traveler myself. I like the world as a whole. I like international, whatever. There's a lot of crazy things going on in the world that are opportunities for food entrepreneurs. Okay. Those who are looking to get out of their respective countries around the world or are listening in and go do things that are forward thinking, especially in restaurants and food, and starting to look into it. There's things like the Wall City in Saudi Arabia that's being built, a mirror wall that makes it look like the building doesn't exist at all. Like those places need restaurants, they need food entrepreneurs. He's building a massive, massive city there. Also, bullet trains running inside and out of that format as well. There's some people building it on water, a billionaire. There's, Bill Gates is building his version of the most advanced city in the world, no different than Disney tried to do with Epcot Center and down in Florida. A lot of that was about future thinking, future cities. One of the first big proponents of aquaponics in the modern era was actually Walt Disney, guys, hydroponics and aquaponics. And so, I think that we all need to see that there are opportunities out there and there is a future, even with AI, even with robots, even with whatever, like there are opportunities and there's things to grow and we don't even need to talk about Elon Musk building his own city on Mars, starting to move forward. So that's kind of a crazy concept to think about that. That's a reality. But guess what? There's going to need to be venturous people that have a venturous spirit that need to go bring food and hot sauces and production and things to those places. So it's a whole other nut to crack, but it is out there. So I'm going to just tie that for everyone to really blow their mind right now. Let's talk, Maria, about your experience in China. Let's talk about what it taught you, how you grew as a human.
Yeah, my experience in China was overwhelmingly positive. I really fell in love with Shanghai in particular. I pretty much had no intention of returning to the United States until COVID happened. That's why I came back. But being there, I actually, my closest friends were, my, my closest friend was from Lhasa. So she was Tibetan. And that was really cool because I guess what was unique about my experience was, I know it sounds kind of lame, but I kind of gravitated away from the other FTs, like foreign teachers. So basically, American expats that I worked with, and I started hanging out with this more kind of Chinese crew, I guess you could say, which I think made my experience very authentic. I mean, I remember them taking me for hot pot and eating chicken feet. I had friends from the Philippines and they were eating some crazy things too. And I guess you could say I kind of got sort of fat there my first year, but I managed to figure it out. I ended up joining a gym and cooling it. But I was definitely excited to try all these new things and, be surrounded by all these new cultures.
Yeah, I would say that food in China in general, well, there's a lot, it's a big place, so there's a lot of diversity in it ethnically amongst regions and things like that. No different than the United States in some ways, Cajun, New England, etc. But the barbecue in Texas. Well, one of the things I want to actually emphasize here, guys, is like some of the food in China's. I think people think it's weird or they're afraid to do it or whatever. There's a stereotype in some ways, and they hear it's not American Chinese food, and that makes people even more fearful. But the reality is, it's really good, and the Chinese have a very large population to feed, and what the Chinese have been able to do over thousands of years of compounding culture comparatively. And a lot of it does exist in their food. And it's a beautiful thing to go be a part of. You go into Europe, it's hundreds of years. You start going into China and Asia, you start seeing things thousands. And so it's a cool thing, things that have been passed down generations for a very long time, traditionally, even in food. So I want to talk about this a little bit. Let's talk about your love of hot sauce tied into China. How does that start manifesting itself there? What does it mean to you? Does the way it's viewed different there than maybe here where everyone's like, oh my gosh, you have an obsession about hot sauce? I think once you start getting into a culture that's more food oriented, they embrace this type of behavior. Maybe it's part of the leaning towards more of the Chinese natives, for lack of a better term. I don't know if that's the right term, but whatever. And so talk to me a little bit about that, Maria. Talk to me about how hot sauce makes its way on this journey, or hot things
So
in general.
actually, I know exactly my answer to this because actually, when you do go to a major city and you are an expat there, you actually come to realize there are tons of other expats from all over the place. I mean, there were loads of Europeans, loads of South Africans, loads of Americans, especially in like the like city center. There's a part of Shanghai called Jing'an, and it's pretty much where all most of the expats live. And because of that, there are also a ton of expat entrepreneurs living in Shanghai that basically bring these concepts that are very not Chinese, for example, and bring it to a very diverse city, and they do really well. Like I met this one guy, he opened a bar called Cages, and it basically had batting cages, it had the basketball game, it had ping pong, and it was like the most popular place to go. And I just thought it was funny because I was like, this doesn't seem like earth shattering, but it actually was a nice place to go when you were missing home, for example. The second guy I met, he actually opened a hot sauce kind of bar. Also, clearly, I was bar hopping, I guess, and he called it Hot Box. And he basically bought like a shipping container and he had it painted fire hydrant red, and it was kind of placed in this alleyway in city center in Jing'an, and he made it a really cool industrial kind of looking hot sauce store, and it was even lit like kind of very red-ish, and he would buy all these crazy peppers and dried peppers, and he would infuse tequila with them. And he had them in all these different jars. He had like scorpion tequila, habanero tequila, jalapeno tequila. And basically, not only could you shop for hot sauce, but you could challenge your friend to like, if you the scorpion tequila, let me tell you, that hurt. That hurt bad. That was no joke. But it was definitely a fun place to like bring your friends. And I just loved I would hang out in there all the time. And I was so admirable of the guy who started it because I was like, this is such a cool concept. Like, this is so cool.
I like this, and I like the peeling of the layers, because I do agree entrepreneurship exists in all environments, and I think particularly in food, everyone has to eat. Restaurants are something that have been around a very long time. We often call the East Dutch Indian Trade Company, or East Indian Dutch Trading Company, whatever, I don't know the order. And I just read a thing where they were worth like $8 trillion in today's value. They had their own armies and stuff. But anyway, it was the first business. But in reality, anyone that sold food, anyone that grew food to sell to the public, that owned a cottage or a breakfast inn or whatever, even on king's land, even though it may have been owned by the king and they were just renting the cottage from them, technically it's no different than we do now by paying leases and rents. And so entrepreneurs been going around a long time. It's important to understand that this type of thinking and the freedom of thinking brings love and peace to all environments. So, and by having this conversation with Maria, it's a reminder that one of the things that made business on an international level so great in food is because when you work in food and you have a love of food and it becomes a breaking of bread in your culture, that you start to understand there's more similarities about us as humans than there are differences. Okay. And that genuinely all of us want the same thing, which is whatever generations after us, whatever life we have until then, we want to try to grow the world better than we found it in general. I mean, in general, that would be good. But I think we also want to enjoy our lives with our friends and our family and find purpose and love and relationships, period. That's what we do really well as food entrepreneurs, is we connect those pieces. In restaurants, through memories, through hot sauces. Food is an anchor to very valuable memories. And why is that, guys? Well, it's by the nature of the way we were built as humans, the way God designed us, or however you want to look at it. But having the smell and the taste attached with the memory and the emotion solidifies it. It's important. It's part of how we felt love in our past, was through food and being fed, especially during times where we were hungry. So innately, that's who we are as humans, if we really think about it logically. Let's talk about this, because I love you're discovering yourself there. But let's talk about this. You come home. Well, I mean, is there anything else you want to touch upon in China that maybe I haven't touched upon before we continue on? Maybe growth or things that you feel that need to be said or you want to say?
No, I think yeah, you guys pretty much got the gist of my time in China.
Yeah, I love this. So your palate's growing. You're seeing other entrepreneurs in action, right? So they're having influence on you. But the entrepreneur thing is not there. You're enjoying your life there. COVID kind of mixes the deck, as we talked about a little bit. Let's talk about the shaking of your life, the rattling of your tree, the repurposing of you, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
Basically, your deck is shuffled.
Yeah. So of course we all have the COVID story, and mine was, I felt like it was pretty fucked up. I was definitely like rattled. I basically, in 2019, I packed a bag to go to Japan for like a week was the plan. I flew to Okinawa, and when I was in Okinawa, I took a boat to Ishigaki. It's a very small island in like the very southern prefectures of Japan. And I went there because it was off season and the tickets were cheap, and I knew it wasn't going to be busy because anywhere you go in Asia during Chinese New Year, basically all of China is like not working at the same time. So a lot of places get like insanely crowded, and it's not. I did not like it. So that's why I flew to Japan, to like an unpopular winter destination. And while I was there, COVID just like appeared, and I was like, wait, what is going on? So I got stuck in Japan for almost 2 months, and all my flights because I had to fly to Hong Kong and then connect and go to Shanghai. They kept getting canceled. And then, I was starting to worry about money and whatnot. And then Trump basically like did last call. He's like, last call to come back, or like, you're not coming back. And then my parents were like, please come home. Like, we're scared because nobody really knew if it was going to be like the next bubonic plague of our time or whatever. So yeah, I flew back. And the crazy thing is I had a dog in Shanghai. I had all of my stuff, my life, my bank account, my money, my laptop, my friends. And basically, I just was never able to go back. And even to this day, like, I don't really know where my dog is. I know that my dog got passed around to a few people, but I couldn't keep up with it. I think all my stuff is probably, I don't know. I have no idea. Even my bank account, they wouldn't let me transfer any money without being there with my passport. So, and I still haven't gone back to get it. So I don't even know if my bank account even exists anymore. Like, I'm honestly not sure. But yeah, so came back directly from Japan, and then I was just back in Connecticut. And I remember being like, I hate it here, which is funny, and being so angry because I just like was like, I've been traveling the world. I've been living in Shanghai, like population 22 million, going like for weekends in like Thailand and now I'm just back in Connecticut, like F this for real. And I remember feeling like very angry and not being very nice to my parents because I was also living back at home. And I was like, how could I have digressed this far after everything that I've done and being self-sufficient? And yeah, so that I don't know if you have any questions after all that.
No. It's in a lot of ways, I feel what you're talking about. I feel the pain in a different way. I think in different ways, lost a lot during those times, even with a booming business, relationships, people, gosh, things that I still don't know about, and it's a reminder that what a weird time. Definitely praying for your dog. That's coming to my heart.
Yeah, that was tough. Love that dog to death.
Yeah. So, but I think what a crazy scenario on a global scale and a shuffling of the deck. And honestly, that should really anchor a lot of what we're talking about here, guys. Like, we are so flat as a planet in terms of communication and information being accessible on a global scale. It's the fact that we're so divided on other reasons based on human constructs that we've created, meaning they're not universally created, that nature didn't create them. We create borders and all of those things. It's just a very interesting thing that we need to think about as global citizens, and I've done this for a long time. I think as well, and I'm going to mention it before we go on, because I think there's a lot about protecting our own borders and ideology and things like that. And I think that they are important. I don't want to get into politics because in general, it's a human construct and it's always temporary in the grand history of things, because we still fail to realize that we are all one being under one nation that lives under this earth. However we want to look at it, we're all sharing the same resources, the same planet, the same food, the same love, the same energy. And the more we realize that, I think the better off we're going to be. But it is a reminder for everyone to think about that, I think, in their own way, and what are we tied to? What are we loyal to? And why versus what we should be loyal to and what we should be tied to, especially as a generation. I was analog and digital generation. Like, we grew up with phones that went, I'm 45 years old as we record this, but I also grew up in digital. My father worked for, Marriott at the time, particularly in food before he became an entrepreneur. And no one wanted to work on the computers at Marriott, so he brought them into our home. So I learned computers at like 3-4 years old, on top of business and accounting and all the software that Marriott was using, because he, for some reason, needed help from a kid, because I could understand those things at a younger age, because my mind was mush. Basically, guys, when we're younger, or we stay in the capacity of making our brain malleable, meaning ever changing and growing, we can stay in that capacity during a lifetime. And it's why, while we're as kids, we learn so much more, because we're in a constant focused state of malleability, knowing we're learning. It's when we get into adults that we think we're not, and we get stubborn, and we think we're in a place of not learning, or we know it all, or what more do I need to learn, that we get that life becomes difficult. It's that malleability. It's why adventure, it's why travel that we're talking about. If you're part of Gorilla Brave, it's part of your first 3 pillars of leadership is exposure, meaning expose yourself to the world if you're going to lead here. You cannot call yourself a leader in any way if you only know your own community. I'm sorry, you don't understand humans and the nature of us in the grand scheme of things, and your impact of your leadership in a way that should be classified enough as a leader. And I'm sorry, I know it takes some of us a lot of resources, or we weren't privileged to travel. I'm getting that. But what I am saying is you should seek it and you should pursue it for sure. Let's talk. You get back. Your life is upside down in every way possible. It's almost like getting a divorce, but worse in some ways. So you're trying to figure out purpose. Why is this happening around you? Now, mind you, I want to anchor this for everything. The worst thing about COVID wasn't COVID or the fear of COVID. That's not the mental toll it took, because normally humans don't care about stuff. We could be having bombs dropping over our head in war, and we can find happiness. What happened during COVID is because everyone was dealing with the exact same thing on such an unknown global scale that our support systems that were normally in our humans fell apart, because no one knew how to support one another, let alone themselves, during such an unknown. So the real thing that happened is, by the nature of what we did in confining ourselves and then isolating ourselves into homes, we did it for medical purposes. I'm not saying arguing it here nor there. Believe me, I was doing hospital food, lots of it during that time, long-term care homes, retirement homes in general. So I know what was going on. But like, we just have to understand what that means. Wow, I'm like in my head right now. I'm going to turn the mic back over. Maria, let's talk about how you sort of climb your way out of this as the world around you is crumbling, and for you, way more in some ways than other people, because your support, your ground, your foundation is in another country. And even though you have your family and stuff here, this has become, you're now basically almost a foreign alien in captivity.
Yeah. So coming back, I had to find a job, which obviously was tough because of the circumstances. But eventually I did land a job, and I started working in hospitality. Yep.
When in doubt, man, start in food, even if you have to start all over. I keep telling everyone that. What do I do? Start in food. People always need to be fed, even when there's robots and someone doing it for us. There will always be a need there in some way, for sure. But anyway, go ahead. So you start in hospitality. Where do you start?
Yeah, so it's funny because obviously, like you said, everyone was affected. And because I had just spent so much time kind of like floating around in Japan with like no purpose because I was stuck there, I was like gravitating towards Japanese restaurants in Connecticut. And there was one place in particular in Norwalk called Haruki. And I was going there a lot, and I quickly learned that the owner was this really cool Japanese girl from Yokohama who was like right around my age. So we became good friends, and we started hanging out a lot, when she wasn't at the restaurant, but she was at the restaurant a lot because that's what it takes when you have your own restaurant. And I didn't end up working there because I was like, you're my friend. I don't want to work for you kind of thing. So I started working at a different restaurant. But anyway, our friendship was based around food because I could relate to like things that she likes, like for example, going to Hot Pot or, anything sort of like that. It was always like a dinner date. And then I just remember one night we're like chilling in my kitchen, like, and we're just drinking high noons and hanging out. And she knew that because every time I would order from Haruki, I would say, "Can you tell the chef to make it comically spicy? Like the hottest you can make it and then hotter." And then my idea that night was for her to have like a spicy ramen challenge for her restaurant as a way to like attract people like that like to do those food challenges.
I love it.
And I was like, we have to make like a really, really hot sauce to like add to ramen to have this fun ramen challenge. And then she's like, well, if we're gonna make a really, really hot sauce, why don't we just make a hot sauce business and then we can bottle and sell the sauce? And she's like, it's a perfect idea because we just used my restaurant's kitchen, so we have no overhead, right? So I was like, yeah, that's true. Like, we don't even have to rent a place. Like, we can just, when the kitchen closes and the restaurant's done, we can go back there and just play around and make something really spicy. So actually, like, our first sauce is our that we made is our hottest sauce still
Let's
to this day.
let's
It's our
talk about what's that
Reaper
one?
sauce.
That's the Reaper sauce. Let's talk about the creation of the brand, the idea of the name. Let's quick talk about that because I want to get into the sauces and I want to continue to tell the story from here. But talk to me about deciding the name, the decision to actually make this into a business. Was it during this time that you guys are just playing around?
Yeah, it was. That's when she was like getting serious about doing it, and I was really clueless on how to start a business because I'd never started a business. And that was actually her second restaurant already. So she was like, "This is perfect because I know how to start a business and I'll do all the logistical stuff and then you be like the creative brain because I even in my apartment when I moved out of my parents' house eventually, I had a two-bedroom and one of the rooms was my art studio. So everyone that knows me knows that I enjoy art and designing and anything to do with that. So that quickly became my wheelhouse. And picking the name, like I remember the first label I ever created, it had a bomb on it. And it was just a black and white label and it said like bomb sauce. And it didn't say anything about what the flavor was or anything like that. And I don't know, I was just thinking like in terms of like, like fire, explosions, like something like that. And then of course, there's like the slang saying like you could say like, oh, that's so bomb, like that's so good, right? So I was like, bomb sauce. It's hot, it's good, thought it was a cool name. And then that kind of transpired into okay, we need to keep this Japanese because our whole concept is going to be that this is Japanese hot sauce, which actually isn't really a thing because Japan is not known for like spicy food at all. So it was a very like East meets West concept. And then I was like, oh, well, we can call it like, if it's not going to be bomb sauce, but we want it to sound Japanese, I was like, how do you say bomb in Japanese? And basically, bamu is bomb or the onomatopoeia for like boom. And then it was just like BamuBamu, boom boom sauce. I don't know. We just doubled it. And then I was like, that's going to be confusing because no one, like most Americans obviously don't speak Japanese. So then we added Fire Club because I thought Fire Club might bring in a little bit, make it more obvious that it's a hot sauce company. And then I remember like having this first thought where I was gonna try and make it like kind of like Fight Club theme on our Instagram, which I didn't end up doing. But I also like we thought adding the word club would make it seem like, like if you're into this kind of sauce, then you're part of like our family, our club, our spicy lover club.
Yeah, you're welcome to the clubhouse.
Yeah,
Fire sauce
exactly.
lovers welcome, no one else allowed. The let's talk about this now because you developed a sauce, you develop a brand, you develop a label. Like, how do you build from here? Let's talk about how you guys develop a relationship. What year is this roughly when you're starting this? 2021?
I would say 2022 is like
Okay.
when the ideas are popping, and then we established for real in 2023.
Perfect. So let's talk about building the brand from that point on, new sauces, building a new business partnership, all of those things, because now you're committed to this. Once you dip your toe in the water, you're all in, whether you realize it or not. So let's talk about it.
Right. Sorry, like don't know where to start. Well, after we developed the hottest sauce, we needed like a more average Joe sauce, which still to this day people think is too spicy. So we're like trying to decide if we're gonna like change ratios. But anyway, we came up with our second flavor and we decided to use Thai chilies because it's a very popular Asian pepper and they're hot. So that's kind of when we started playing with using sesame and creating a sesame paste. Because again, like if you've ever gone to a hot pot restaurant, it's basically like broth that's boiling constantly. And you can get it very spicy, you can get it not spicy, you get it tomato based, whatever. And then they bring you everything raw and you cook it in this pot in the middle of the table and then you eat it like that. But when you go to this restaurant, there's a sauce bar and it's basically like it's like 50 different kinds of like toppings and seasonings and vinegars, peanut butter sauce, sesame sauce, vinegars, oil, sesame oil, chili oil, and you basically make a sauce in a bowl and it's kind of like what you dip your food in to, I don't know, to have a sauce. So I was like, well, peanut sauce is popular, sesame sauce is popular. So we went with sesame and we developed our sesame paste, which is still kind of spicy on its own. And then of course our Thai chili pepper mash mixed in with it created this really cool vinegary, spicy, but like nutty sauce that today we consider our signature sauce. And it's our most popular.
So you built it. You now have all the sauces. We've got the lineup. We've got some potential stars of the show, which you said you have a star of most popular. How do you get it out to the world? How do you get people to buy it? How do you start building relationships? How do you start marketing and advertising and building social media? All of those things. Because you have an advantage. You have your own production facility.
Yeah, so that it's still to this day a learning experience. Our first year, we had four flavors, and of course, I was going back and forth with my labels, trying to create like a consistent design, but also unique to each flavor, but some sort of consistency to show like this is all the same brand. So I started applying us to local farmers markets in Connecticut. And that was, I remember, a really exhausting season for me because my a startup company does not pay your bills and I was still working. I still am working to this day full time at a restaurant, which can be up to 50, 60 hours a week. requesting my days off to do farmers markets was like losing my day off. And, but I was going out there every Friday and Saturday and just selling locally. And of course, because I'm from here, a lot of people go to the farmers market and they know me. So it was like, oh, this is so cool. You started a hot sauce business. And I was like, yeah, I know. It's a little influence on, from when I was living over in Asia, and it just kind of, all fell into place. I had a tremendous local support, even when we were first started making hoodies and stuff on the Cricket. Like pretty much everyone I knew bought one, and that was nice for our sales because we were selling them for like $40, and obviously the sauce is a lot cheaper. But yeah, I was just doing farmers markets the first year.
What was that like? Obviously, building a lot of relationships. You're living out of your car a little bit. You're trying to build a tablecloth table. What was that like? Because you're literally, for lack of a better term, being a road warrior.
Yeah, literally, like I was driving an '04 Suburban with all the seats down, and the car was just full of hot sauce, like my little trolley, my 10 by 10 tent, the canopy, two tables, two folding chairs, all of the products, my cash bank. And, I wouldn't empty the car like every time I wasn't at the farmer's market. I would just put everything back in and then just wait until the next farmer's market. So yeah, it was definitely road warrior-esque, but fun at the same time. Like working at the farmer's market is its own whole world and community, which I was quickly becoming a part of, because you have so much respect for all these other entrepreneurs that are doing the same thing that you're doing, like unpacking all of their shit from their car and showing up and just doing it. So, I kind of formed relationships there too, and in the different towns, not all the same vendors. So, I was going up to like Bridgeport, Connecticut. I was going to New Canaan, Connecticut. I was in Rowayton, Connecticut, and just meeting a lot of people doing that. You learn a lot though from those from other farmers market people, I guess. Like basically, they were putting us next to this company called the Grumpy Dumpling at one of the farmers market. Cause I guess cause like we're like Asian style sauce and they were like dumplings. And those guys were really great. They would tell us like, oh, we made so much money doing this huge event in this town and you should sign up for it. Oyster Festival, like any kind of, something that is attracting like a huge crowd. And then they were telling us a lot of like about it. There's even like Japan Fest in New York City we learned about, but we haven't done it, but we did learn about a lot of things we could attend.
Yeah, seeds planted for future growth, I think for sure. We're like you mentioned, 2023, you're doing a lot of it. What changes the why less farmers market? What happens with the brand? Does it pick up? Like, talk to me a little bit about the development there, because you mentioned it in passing. I just want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so after the farmers market season ended, which is usually in October, roughly, we had like the winter time to kind of plan our next move because the farmers markets don't start until April. So you have all this off season time. And I was like, all right, well, how are we gonna promote the brand now? And that's when I started to discover that there's loads of holiday markets. And I think an advantage of being based out of Norwalk, Connecticut is we're only about a 45-minute drive from New York City, which obviously is the mecca for, you know, business near us here. So I was really focusing on getting gigs to go sell hot sauce in New York City for the holiday season because I know that Hot sauce is actually a really popular holiday gift. It's easy. A lot of like people buy it for their dads, their brothers. And in New York, it's very culturally diverse. So, more people identifying from cultures that are already innately like spicy. So we did really well for our holiday market season. And after that, after Christmas, you hit another hiatus because then there's no farmers markets and there's no holiday season. So that's when I really shifted gears and I started focusing on finding trade shows that would bring together like-minded companies. So, for example, like there are actually tons of hot sauce expos where you meet all of these different hot sauce companies. You wouldn't believe how many there are. So many. I was like, oh boy. And you just meet all these different guys and girls that are doing the same thing, making sauce, bottling it, and just showcasing it as much as they can to as many places as they can.
Yeah, I'm going to anchor this because I talk about it in another episode, but I'm going to anchor it for the crowd on this one. Hot sauce and the way that we deliver it and the way that we've commercialized it as Americans is a growing phenomenon internationally, especially when we infuse it, as it used to be called in a culinary term, when we merge two cultures' food into one. So it'd be like Korean barbecue. Okay, although the Koreans have probably been barbecuing forever, they were taking an American form and combining it with a Korean sense of sauce and cooking, maybe, or whatever. They call them fusions. A lot of time fusion. That's because the infusion of two different types of cooking or methods or cultures. Okay, so that's one. Number two is on an international level, what is happening, and this happens in the world on a global scale, is that when the world is demanding something or there needs to be something for future growth, I'm going to anchor things other than food first. We're going to talk about like Van Gogh. I'll mention him a lot. Malcolm Gladwell does a better example of this than I do, but you get a concentration of artists that explode out. Maybe they're rebelling a little bit. Maybe it's kind of weird. You're not kind of understanding what this whole thing's about, but they cluster and they grow in this cluster. We could look at like Woodstock and sort of that freedom as another one of these movements in some ways from a culture standpoint, but I think from a food standpoint is what I'm going to focus on totally. We're talking about like fried chicken. Have everyone in the world probably fried chicken in some way? Yeah. Maybe it's breading, maybe not, maybe some form of breading. But what KFC did is introduce it on an international level. And then when everyone's like, oh, there's already a fried chicken business out there, there's more that comes, Zaxby's, Popeyes, all that. And then when everyone's like, oh, there's enough chicken in the chicken business, then comes, oh, well, Nashville hot chicken is a new industry. Let's blow that up. Oh, and did we forget about chicken and waffles? That's a whole subcategory in the fried chicken business. Let's do that. So in hot sauce, what's happening, guys, is America just happens to be a melting pot of creativity and recipes and thinking about it in this capacity. Okay, does that mean that people aren't doing it internationally? No, it does not mean that. It just means by the nature of concentration, no different than what's going on in Nashville in the restaurant business, by the concentration of a lot of creativity, of a lot of people doing the same thing, creating a lot of the same energy. It's also that the world needs it. Okay, or that it's going to explode out of it. And so hot sauce on an international level, which is, I think, part of the equipping that's going on here for you, Maria, your international experience, your exposure, your looking at the world in more of a universal level because of what you've been through. I think it's equipping you to bring hot sauce on more an international level in a lot of ways, and maybe even bring your friends along with you. And sort of, for lack of a better term, blaze a trail, because we do see chicken going all over the world, and Dave's Hot Chicken and hot foods going all over the world and being popular. guys. So, as entrepreneurs in the United States, human constructs are our borders, guys. As an entrepreneur, we break boundaries all the time. We think outside the box all the time. Our boundaries are just another box. And ultimately, you start to realize as you really become good at a food entrepreneur, is every country, no matter what it is, all of humans desire love, peace, energy, and good food, good, healthy food to sustain a life. And if there's a lack of food, all the more they need healthy, sustainable, loving food because it means that much more to them. So I just want to anchor that for everyone. I want to anchor it for Maria also. Let's talk about building this thing into the future. As you guys have built this and bridged that gap, where does this go? Where are you hoping it goes? How do you build this now? You have a whole new community in expos. I agree with you. You've sort of built a community. You know what it's like to be in the farmers markets, the holiday markets, but you also know what it's like to be in this grand community of what I would call extremely, extremely talented hot sauce entrepreneurs that if they're doing really well, everyone knows that they're building an industry and helping one another also. And collaboration is important. That's why the Pepper Palace does so well. So let's talk about this a little bit. Maria, where does this go? Where are you guys hoping it goes?
A lot of valid points there, definitely.
And if you want to say anything about that, well, it's your show. You can. I can just go off on my tangents. So it's up to you for sure.
No, I just love everything you said, and I do think like the whole idea of fusion is so exciting, at least to me. Anything that's unique and different, like I'm like so opposite of like a piece of toast with butter kind of person. And I just love exploring anything that I haven't tried in the spice world, including in like sauce worlds. But yeah, I think for like our business outlook now is, obviously, like I said, there's actually a lot of competition in the hot sauce world, but I didn't it almost feels like how like craft beer like blew up. And I would say it mainly hot sauce blew up because of Hot Ones. I mean, that show got so popular, and especially with, I think at the time, people that were in hot sauce realized like this is an opportunity for me to showcase my sauce and even have like a celebrity taste it. And I think that really blew up some of those initial companies. Like you see like the sauce like Da Bomb and Last Dab, and all those are famous sauces now because of that show. Um
100%. Yep.
yeah, so I think a lot of people that thought about starting maybe a hot sauce company did because it they saw it as an opportunity to jump on that bandwagon and maybe, be on that show. I mean, obviously, anyone would love to be on that show. I don't even know how you would apply to be on that show, honestly. I haven't even looked into it. But yeah, so it's definitely, not, I don't think any business is an easy one to get into. And obviously, there's going to be competition no matter what. But I do think that I feel like our product is unique of its because it's Japanese fusion, because it's pretty niche. I mean, there's really, if you go to a grocery store, there's not really besides sriracha. There's bachans now, I think it's called. That's a Japanese barbecue sauce, but that one's pretty big, but it's not spicy. It's not I wouldn't say that this kind of hot sauce is overly saturated. So, we're pushing forward, and of course locally we're in all like the local grocery stores, but in terms of upcoming goals, like we have been focusing on trying to boost e-commerce more. we did like a radio ad. We're doing Google ads. I'm always trying to post stuff on the Instagram account and up the following. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love this. I'm going to tie all this together for you, and then I'm going to ask you one last question as we close out. One of the things I'm talking about, guys, if we're going to produce future, one of the things we are working on in Gorilla Brave now is, what does a legacy really look like if we were to truly build one in our business? Well, that means that they far outlast us in a positive way if we're going to cause it to positive impact, positive influence. We talked about future cities. We know AI, robotics, they're coming, simplifying human life, maybe even growing a lot of our own food with the help of robotics and AI, where we're growing our own tomatoes, our own plants. We aren't having to rely on it on the commercial setting necessarily the same ways anymore because we have help from robotics or AI. This is very important, guys. The way we eat, the way we get our food from grocery stores, the way that we interact with our food, and how fresh we will be able to get our food because of aquaponics and hydroponics and all that becoming so accessible in our homes with the help of AI and robotics. These things are going to be more where we're eating fresh on a consistent basis in our homes. Okay, what does that also mean? Why is that? Why am I saying that? Well, there's certain things that and places that will still exist. We will still need to buy things. Will they look as much as going to a grocery store in some ways? Yes, but they're possibly more looking like showcases where I go to see a bunch of different things, but I'm ordering a lot of stuff online, my groceries, my hot sauces, things like that. Okay. I'm focusing a lot on this, and you guys hear me say it a lot. I'm focusing a lot on food trucks. I'm focusing a lot on portability. I'm focusing a lot on what does future cities look like, because we need to build the businesses of the future, not the businesses of now. And what do trends tell us? That there's always trends that we can hopscotch our way on to move forward. Okay. And whether or not we realize it or not, food is a constantly evolving thing, and meshing of cultures and understanding the way people drank coffee in the 1850s certainly is not the way we drink coffee now. Okay. And the way we drink beverages now is not the way we drank them 10 years ago. So what am I saying? Guys, if hot sauce, why I spend so much time on sauces is because they are portable. As we as humans get into bigger cities and ride bigger railways, 22 million, we just talked about, as we start moving our way around cities and our social dynamics become more portable as we're moving through life versus staying stationary through life because things are done for us in our homes, AI, robotics, things that are becoming more and more. We have automatic vacuums. I just wanted you to think about that. And as we do that in food entrepreneurs, where do the opportunities come in for our restaurants, for our food, for our portability? What's becoming the thing of the future? One of the things I'm saying about hot sauce so often is it is something I can take with me wherever I go. It's in a bottle. If I like it, I throw it with me. No matter where I stop along the way, I add a little bit of hot sauce. And if I could tell you how many entrepreneurs I know in the world that pack hot sauce in their suitcases to put on no matter what food it is in the world, because no matter how much they love the food, they always love their hot sauce. And to them, filtering anyone else's food through their hot sauce is still enjoying their food the way it should be. But it is part of the world and part of that. But it is the portability that I am talking about. It's why I'm talking about the hot sauce thing. I'm talking about as we go, the food is in my hand. I am eating it as it goes. The devices by which I eat with, like a fork and knife and things like that, while they'll still exist, they're going to become less prevalent, because if I'm mobile, I need things like sauce holders. I need things that go around my hand that are portable, maybe even disposable, biodegradable, that allow that movement. And sauces can go in that as well. If I sell my hot sauce in bulk, restaurants can sell it in that format. And you can collaborate and we can do whatever, which is the wave of the future. Restaurants, food concepts, we're not going to stand on our own anymore. Social media has paved the way of collaboration. It will naturally spill into the way we do business and we build our brands. They will be blank, X blank, X blank. We see it right now. It's true in food too. It'll be XYZ farm times XYZ bacon times XYZ farm blue cheese, whatever. But it's going to become more prevalent because that's how this is all going to come together. But how it's sourced, how we grow it, how we live is going to be different in the future, and we have to live within that. So that's why the reason I'm spending so much time on hot sauces, letting the world know, am I trying to say there's more room here and there should be more entry? I am kind of also forewarning you, anyone who wants to enter, is that the first entry usually gets growth off of flavor. The second entry has to fight the game a little bit differently. And Coca-Cola, while everyone knows it, Coca-Cola was not a first mover by many means. And if they hadn't invented the soda fountain, there would be no Coca-Cola company. And if they hadn't partnered with True Manufacturing in St. Louis, Missouri, to build bottle boxes to keep their sodas cold and be the first soda to be served cold all the time instantly in the bottle boxes in every store or gas station in America, there would be no Coca-Cola, because originally they failed at bottling and selling bottled soda at room temperature in Europe. They lost money. And then after that, he then had to battle everyone over the name cola and what it means to be a cola versus a non-cola. And then after that, he literally went to every other cola company and said, I will either buy you for the amount I'm going to go after you for, or this is the amount of money I know I'm going to spend to go after you and eventually put you out of business. So you can either take it and I'll take your business and buy it and just put it out of business because I don't want the competition or the brand. Because at that time, it was about building one soda, not about building multiple brands like we do now. But even today, soda companies buy brands and put them under. It's okay, you get that privilege in buying it. But I just want everyone to think about that it's not a straight path. And generally, the first mover enjoys first mover benefits. But first mover benefits don't generally come with anything great. Ford wasn't the first one to invent the car. He just perfected the system into mass production. Toyota wasn't the first to invent the car. They just perfected lean production. So same things, guys. So Maria, as we end things here, anything that you're called to feel, anything you want to say about the brand, also where can they find you online, how can they order you guys, anything like that, it's all yours. We went way over. I apologize about that, but I definitely want to have you back on for sure. But anyway, it's yours to close out.
No, yeah, we covered a lot of ground on a lot of topics, and I actually haven't even unpacked or talked about some of those things in a long time, so it does feel kind of good. And yeah, in general, you can check us out at BamuBamuFC.com. FC is short for Fire Club, of course. You can follow us on Instagram at BamuBamu Fire Club. And yeah, thanks for tuning in and listening to our story, my story, and yeah, we had a lot of great things to say.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. Thank you for liking, sharing the episode as we're recording this. Our numbers are growing quite rapidly, again, internationally in particular. So I appreciate that, guys. All the support, all the freedom in food that we're spreading across the globe. And in terms of freedom, I just mean breaking human constructs and living on a higher level and understanding that food breaks all boundaries. So it's a good start. Lastly, guys, please like, share, comment on the episodes. If you like a particular entrepreneur's episode, please vocalize it on whatever platform you're using. It helps the entrepreneur. It helps get their episode out there. Yes, it's as basic as there's algorithms in all these platforms that like interaction with it. And the more interaction it gets, the better it does. Same with the social media that we just heard. Websites interact. Order the hot sauce if you're a hot sauce fan or experimenting with hot sauce, or like to try different hot sauce, maybe with this cultural fusion or infusion that we're talking about. Guys, it's worth it. Try it. Expand your palate. Anyone going out to the summit in September in New York, while I record this, the whole schedule isn't out there. But one of the things that we will be doing out there is integrating in things like this and conversations like this. So I am going to invite Maria to share more there about her thing as well, for anyone who's coming there to share about her international experiences, her journeys in spice as part of that. But I think, and she is in that area, but that summit, guys, that's a big deal. We talked about Walter's Hot Dogs. We've talked about Avenel Barbecue on there, and some of the pizza places that'll be there. It is a big event. There is lots of diversity in food. Some of the things we've never heard of, some of the things we have heard of, but in a new way. Bagel companies, pizza companies, like I said. So even some beverage companies. So it's worth going to, guys, if you're doing it and you want something concentrated where you're learning from other entrepreneurs who are growing from you. So that's the only time I really plug it recently, but that is in September, guys, and you can find that at gorillabrave.love/events. I am out. We're out. Thank you, Maria. I love you guys in the audience. Keep growing, keep learning. That's why we're doing the resources. Again, anything educational, guys, is out there, and it's on Instagram and Facebook too. If you guys need reminders, core values, leadership, some of the basic stuff that we do here or that help keep us grounded as entrepreneurs, and remembering that the things that we do in food are just the vehicle by which we do a greater purpose. We spread love, peace, joy. Our dreams are big enough to fit the dreams of everyone that works for us, everyone that we're influenced. We carry that. The farmers we buy our peppers from, we carry their dreams in our dream. Our dreams got to be huge so we can help them build their dreams, so they can create jobs, and those jobs help those people create the dreams that for their family. It's a big deal. So love you guys. We're out.